Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. My name is Amar Ansari. I'm the Research and Advocacy Coordinator here at CAIR National, and I would like to welcome you to today's episode of CAIR on Air. A special thank you to our listeners on American Muslim 360. Today, we'll be discussing a recent legal victory we had against Laura Loomer. Earlier this week, a district judge ordered Loomer to pay over $125,000 to CAIR and CAIR Florida after a false lawsuit she filed against us. To help us understand a bit more about what this means and how it happened, I'm pleased to bring on our guests for today, CAIR trial attorney Justin Sadowski and CAIR Florida lead counsel Omar Saleh. Justin and Omar, welcome to the program. Before we begin, I do want to hear a little bit about you guys and the work that you guys do for CAIR.
Right, Omar, why don't you go first?
If you want to go, because J comes before O. So, I'll go ahead. Alhamdulillah. I'm the lead attorney at CAIR Florida in the South Florida office. Alhamdulillah, I've been in CAIR Florida. This week will be my 7th year. It's been a tremendous honor and blessing. We do a wide variety of cases, but we don't often, or not as often, have cases where we actually are the defendant or being sued ourselves. It's happened once with us before, this Loomer case by somebody named David Rosenthal sued us for defamation. We defended that case, and we actually got a judgment against him. But I guess that's a good intro to me. Just the attorney in South Florida. Alhamdulillah.
My name is Justin Sadowski. I live in Arlington, Virginia. I work at the National Office of CAIR. I'm actually with the Legal Defense Fund, which is the National Civil Rights Group. There's seven of us, 7 lawyers, 3 legal assistants. We are a powerhouse civil rights litigation and becoming more powerhouse than we're the preeminent fighters of litigators against the federal watch list. We have the largest religious rights in prison practice in the country. We do substantial employment litigation on behalf of Muslim Americans who are either discriminated against or denied religious accommodations at work. We are also, along with the ACLU, the 2 prominent fighters of anti-BDS laws, litigating their constitutionality in court as violations of people's First Amendment rights to protest.
Thank you. So let's talk about this case. Now, for some of our people who are not aware of Laura Loomer herself, could you give a brief background of who she is and how we got to this case today?
She's a terrible person. Laura Loomer is a self-described conservative activist. She's an Islamophobe, and she has built space in 2 areas. One as a big fighter of cancel culture. I've been canceled. She's sued Facebook. She's been canceled from Facebook. She's been canceled from Twitter, which is what this litigation is about. She's been canceled from PayPal. She's pissed because she's so Islamophobic and says the most outrageously Islamophobic stuff. Nobody wants to be associated with her, and so people won't do business with her, and that includes Facebook, which has the right not to do business with her. That includes PayPal, which has the right to do business, and also includes Twitter. So she got banned from Twitter because the same reason she got banned from everything, because nobody wants to deal with her crap. But what happened was there's these 2 people, and they're just merry pranksters. They're liberals. They're merry pranksters. I can't remember their names. Nathan Bernard's one of them. I can't remember the other one of them. They decided to pull a prank on Loomer, and they were just having fun at her expense. And they concocted this ridiculously unbelievable conspiracy that because one of the major investors in Twitter is Saudi Arabia, is Saudi, and I don't know if you know this, but Saudi Arabia hates us because we fight for human rights, and Saudi Arabia is not really on board with human rights. Because of that, the Qatari government, again, if you know anything about Saudi Arabia and Qatar, they also hate each other, ordered Jack Dempsey, the then CEO of Twitter, to listen to everything we say, and therefore CAIR was the overlords of Twitter. And so they convinced us, coming up with fake documents, that we ordered Jack Dempsey to show up at CAIR's offices and told him that under Sharia law, they must ban Laura Loomer. And that's the only reason Laura Loomer was banned. Yeah. Oh, and they filed this lawsuit on behalf of this conservative lawyer who used to be a prominent name. He's probably going to watch this and get really mad at me, and I don't care. He used to be a prominent name, First Amendment litigator, litigated the Slants case, a case that a lot of people who support the First Amendment, I support the First Amendment, which said even if you're racist, you still have a right to say what you have to say, which I actually believe. It doesn't mean that I believe that you should be racist, but he kind of jumped on the MAGA train, and his reputation has just absolutely nosedived. And so he filed on her behalf this litigation. And I don't know whether it was her idea or his idea, but they call us CAIR Hamas. This idea that we represent Hamas, this old trope. So they filed this lawsuit, and this all happened years ago, and they lost miserably. We beat them on everything. We not only beat them on the fact that there was no reason to believe that this was this huge conspiracy, which the court made fun of them for, but also that they said even if everything they said was true, which it obviously wasn't, there's still nothing illegal about that, right? If we happen to control Twitter, which unfortunately we don't, I'm actually Jewish, and there's like this great joke about a guy reading the Nazi Times because it says the Jews control everything. He's like, I like reading good news, but even if we controlled Twitter and told them to ban Laura Loomer, that would be Twitter's prerogative and our prerogative. There's no lawsuit against being banned because someone doesn't like you. So there was nothing to the lawsuit, and the court ruled it. But we also did this thing in Florida called an offer of judgment, which said, we think this case is frivolous. We're offering to settle to you for $1, literal $1. And if you don't accept this offer for $1 and you don't get $1, that means from now on you owe us our attorney's fees because you're dragging through us for this BS lawsuit. And so we were entitled under this, what's called the offer of judgment statute in Florida, to our attorney's fees, which were substantial because litigation is expensive. So, our time, the time of CAIR lawyers, plus CAIR Florida hired a capable Florida lawyer named Darren Spielman, who had, national handle most litigation, but Darren had some time. So that time was actually expended, was reimbursable in the amount of $125,000. And then the lawyer they had, I'm just telling the story because it's funny and I just love telling the story. The lawyer who used to be good but was disgraced, pieced out. And they got a new lawyer who never was respected. This is probably the worst lawyer in the world. His name's Larry Klayman. And Larry Klayman, who has his own Culture Kings, files a bunch of frivolous lawsuits on his own behalf, basically tried to appeal the judgment by saying that it was inappropriate for a judge to give money to terrorists. And that got about as far as you'd expect it to. And the Court of Appeals laughed at them as well. And so the judgment is now final. And by the way, Larry Klayman this is just the funniest part of it to me. Well, one of the funniest parts to me, he is such a bad lawyer that the 11th Circuit won't allow him to practice to where he wanted to appeal. So he had to find a lawyer who would sign the briefs, and he got a lawyer whose job is defending men's rights. So we beat a defending men's rights lawyer to have the right to get $125,000 against Laura Loomer because she sued us for telling Jack Dempsey what to do because Qatar told her what to do because Saudi Arabia gives Twitter money. And that's where we got to where we were. Now, what happened last week was kind of procedural, right? Like that decision that they had to pay happened, I think, last year and the year before, the decision, the original appeal. This is now, we basically went to Laura Loomer and said, okay, you owe us $125,000. You pay us, we'll make it easy on you. And you won't have to pay more fees, you won't have to pay interest. And she went radio silent. And so we're going to have to get in the dirt and attach her assets and whatever income. And we've hired a very capable lawyer, Remy. What's Remy's last? Remy Green of Cohen and Green. I almost said Remy Cohen, but Cohen and Green's her firm. Remy Green. Remy is an amazing lawyer, and I'm going to have so much fun watching Remy make Laura Loomer's life miserable while we get the money that we owe, which we will then, I promise you, put to very good use protecting the rights of Muslim Americans.
Yeah, I mean, I think Justin put it very well. This is nothing personal; it's business. To them, I mean, when you look at people who wake up with just a blind and uncontrollable hatred, blind hatred toward Muslims, a blind hatred toward people like Ilhan Omar, it's so uncontrollable that they can't accept defeat until there's no other doors left. And one of the reasons why is such a large fee amount is because they litigated this case needlessly for so long. I think it's fair because in the cases that Justin would have otherwise worked defending Muslims and people who are marginalized, had to spend his time as we did as well, having to defend this frivolous lawsuit. I just want to point out, I think you meant Jack Dorsey.
Yeah, sorry, I said Jack Dempsey, the box, right? Jack Dorsey, the businessman.
Her attorneys, I think one of them too, sued his own mother. I mean, it's just a type of person, whether it's an individual or an attorney. Unfortunately, blind hatred doesn't discriminate between professions. But this is one where I'm actually confident as well that it's time to really send the message that you got to put your money where your mouth is. If folks are going to start, bringing CAIR into the fold of this litigation, like I said, this is the second time for us. We defended a defamation case against us that was patently frivolous, and we won a SLAP suit, just strategic lawsuit against public participation, and that person had to also pay out an amount of $45,000. I think it sends definitely an important message that people should be using their time doing other things. It doesn't serve at all trying to attack CAIR.
I want to be clear, like Laura Loomer, in her own public statements, made clear that she was bringing this case to hurt Muslims' rights and to do exactly what she did, which was to distract us and make us spend time doing that. And she made no question. She fundraised off it. She helped me take down CAIR through this lawsuit, donate to my legal fund. Now, I don't know. My guess is like all grifters, she probably, whatever money she got, she used for personal things. But I'm pretty confident she paid her lawyers nothing. One of them told me that. But she I don't know. So I don't, to be clear, I don't want to defame anyone. I don't know what she did with the money. I'm not accusing her of anything. I'm just saying she fundraised off this. We have help me take down CAIR, pay us money. So like she was using the courts in an inappropriate way to hurt us, and all we're trying to do is protect Muslims' rights. So I agree with Omar that this is exactly the abuse of the system that demands payments like this.
I would just point out that I'm not an expert on federal litigation or even these causes of action. I think Justin would know more than I am. He is a powerhouse. But the work from the very beginning was shoddy, the legal work, that is. And in fact, Loomer tried to default CAIR National by, thinking that they'd already been served, but they'd actually served a totally different entity in Ohio, thinking that it was Oklahoma, right. Thinking that was CAIR National. So CAIR National didn't respond. And I remember that day is actually July 4th when I got a call. I think it was, as Lena saying, they're looking to default us. And, it just wasn't concerning because it was such an easy motion to quash that service. And then from there, I believe the case was removed to federal court and litigated or decided pretty swiftly by Judge Ruiz. Yeah.
I think the removal of the federal court was really interesting, too, because it explains why CAIR Florida is in the place, because CAIR Florida wasn't really accused of doing anything. So they got dragged through the mud. They weren't even accused of anything, but she included CAIR Florida as a defendant because if you sue somebody outside your jurisdiction over a substantial sum of money, that case typically ends up in federal court. But as long as there's one defendant from your state in there, then the case will stay in state courts. It's something called diversity jurisdiction. And she really wanted to keep the case in Florida courts where the judges were elected and things are a little less by the book, hoping that I still don't think she would have won in state court, but we didn't want to nor need to take the chance. And so we removed the case under, successfully arguing that they didn't really accuse Florida of anything, and you can't just add a defendant because you don't want to be in federal court.
Yeah. And I do want to talk about this lawsuit in terms of, moving forward. My apologies. I mean, legal victory. What are the broader implications of this legal victory, particularly for the Muslim community and Muslim organizations who have been targeted by some similar slander, such as Laura Loomer?
So as a matter of precedent, I don't think there's anything like we're not going to be able to like cite this case in other situations. I think it's more the message it sent that you can't just mess with us.
And I would Justin's right. You gotta, if you can mess, but you're gonna have to put your money where your mouth is. I would say that, the reason why I wouldn't call this a slander, actually, one time I might, seek for the sake of argument in their favor, is to say that regardless of whatever they said in that complaint, that was just not right. It wouldn't amount to slander. There's certain privileges that people could say, especially in litigation, that those comments wouldn't amount to slander. Maybe outside of litigation they would, but in essence, she had a free card to just say whatever nonsense she wanted to in litigation. But that proved just to fall flat on its face. But I just wanted to correct that point, that it's not a defamation case. We don't feel that we were defamed. But yeah, it's false things said all over the place, whether it's in or out of court. That's their MO. It's just spewing out whatever comes out that'll rile your base against Muslims, and it doesn't matter who. And that's unfortunately just the kind of the shameless personalities we have here in South Florida. So we fight against that. We've done it. We keep doing it. And if we have to do it again, we will. And this is just one message to send, that whoever wants to come forward to do that, hopefully they come through with their checkbook.
And could you expand on that, Omar? Specifically, what does this teach us about our civil rights work moving forward, whether it's CAIR or any other organizations who are interested?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
What does it say for defense of Muslim rights? I thought I'd top my head, and then yeah. What this in essence says is that we have a job to do, and we're doing it right, because it's getting a lot of people upset with the work that we do on the ground and in court. People can't stand it. If we weren't doing that type of work and we weren't in the public sphere, it wouldn't be upsetting people like Laura Loomer. She'd been following CAIR representatives all over the place. She follows Muslims all over the place just to try to break them down or rile up her base. And it's just not effective. But that's just what I want to say, is that what I think it means is that we're doing something right, and people can't stand it.
And I think people have recognized like the powerhouse that CAIR has become. Like, people are telling me all the time, they've heard of my litigation. We're CAIR National. It says 7 lawyers. We are 7 lawyers, and our litigation portfolio is bigger than the NAACP's. It's as big as the ACLU's in a lot of areas. We just brought on another amazing attorney who I wish could be here, Hannah Mullen, and highly recruited lawyer. We went over the ACLU, and she says she just loved our attitude, and she loves that we can. She came to us, and she does great work, and it's because what brought her to CAIR and what brought me to CAIR is that we punch so above our weight, and we have these fights that we do that no one else can do on our budget with our people. And we're just, Muslims are unfortunately have not had their rights treated well by the people or by courts, but that what CAIR is being able to do, the serious work that we're doing is as sophisticated as any other nonprofit organizations. And that's why they hate us. They hate us because we're effective.
Yeah.
Well, Justin, Omar, I have to say thank you so much for all the work that you do here at CAIR. Making sure that the civil rights and civil liberties of Muslims are always upheld, and always fighting these battles as we go forward. So Jazakallah khair so much for your help. with that said, I am going to wrap up the show for today. Once again, Justin, Omar, thank you so much for joining us for today's show and explaining exactly what this legal victory means and the fight forward. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you very much, Ismail. Justin, it's a pleasure and honor to work with you. I mean, we're here in Florida. We co-counsel with CAIR National on a number of different cases. Watch list case is one of them. They always have our back on issues like BDS matters, that they're prepared to team up with us. And that's why it feels great to, I'm a Florida Gator, so I sometimes say it's great to be a Florida Gator. It's also great to be in CAIR, Florida.
It's funny. I went to Michigan where we say it's great to be a Michigan Wolverine. I get into arguments with people in Florida who said it first. And I'm still not sure.
Go Gators!
But it's the same. It's the same way because like the work you guys do on the ground is just so incredible, and so like we get to take on. I mean, yeah, there's this fun part about taking on these fighting cases, but you are dealing with like individual people's problems in mass on the ground. You are the first line of defense. You are the people who deal with the police. And yes, on a few cases that we team up, and it's nice for us to be able to sit sometimes at that higher I mean not just higher, sort of like a bird's eye. I don't mean like more important level, because not the more important work, and deal with sort of the complicated legal issues, but like it's the work on the ground that the local chapters do that protects people's rights fundamentally. And without you, there would be nothing.
Thanks, Justin. Thank you very much.
With that said, Jazakallah khair, everyone, for tuning in for today's episode. And inshallah, we'll be back very soon. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.